In one of my lives, somebody jumped in and asked a question that I had never thought of. And they said, hey, James, have you ever had to fight a wild animal? And the answer to that question is yes, but it is the most unmasculine, most embarrassing story ever. So here is the story of whenever I had to fight a wild animal. I was working for the cable company, and we were working up on a telephone pole about 25 feet up in the air. We couldn't use a ladder because of the terrain, so I was using gaffs, which are little spikes in the boots where you climb all the way up the pole. It's just the spikes and a belt. Nothing's really holding you on the pole, so you kind of got to be careful. So I'm up 25 feet in the air working on the cable line, and I look over on one of the strand wires, and there is a squirrel running across the wire towards me. And I'm like, no big deal. I take out the lineman's wrench and bang on the line, and usually that turns the squirrel away. In this case, the squirrel did not turn away. I'm going to remind you, squirrel about this big. Very tiny squirrel. It's in the middle of winter, so I got a whole bunch of coats and hats and scarves on and all this other stuff. But this squirrel keeps coming towards me, and he's barking and yelling and everything else, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then out of nowhere, the squirrel fucking jumps onto my shoulder. Now, I've got a big old leather jacket on, but he just starts just tearing in to the leather jacket and just shredding the leather. And I'm freaking out. I'm up on a telephone pole, 2 nails away from falling. And I reach over and I grab the squirrel and I throw him down on the ground. Now my helper is down on the ground and he's looking at this from the ground, laughing his fucking ass off at me. And here comes the squirrel, runs right past my helper, right back to the telephone pole, all the way back up the telephone pole, climbs my pant leg, comes right back to the same patch on my shoulder that he was ripping apart and starts ripping it again. I freaking grab the squirrel, second time, throw him to the damn ground, almost hits the guy on the ground. The squirrel attacks the guy on the ground. Now I'm laughing at the guy on the ground. That guy kicks the squirrel. The squirrel goes back, goes up the telephone pole, and attacks me again. I take the squirrel and bang it against the telephone pole. No more squirrel. This is the thing. I never realized that squirrels, 1, can bark, 2, can fucking shred leather like nobody's business, and 3, like, why the fuck would a squirrel attack me? Okay, like, I'm up here trying to work on the cable. So I almost got my ass handed to me by a fucking squirrel. All right. Yeah, not my proudest moment, but yeah, squirrel. Who knew they could be vicious?